Hello, all. I wanted to do some sample annotation for you. So, this is a poem we looked at recently in class, Song of Myself by Walt Whitman. I believe in the version you had, we learned that this was from 1855. And I did a little Googling and found out the Civil War, or I should say, reminded myself, was in the 1860s. So, this is right before Revolutionary War was in the late 1700s, and so Walt Whitman lived kind of between these eras. I believe he died in 1890 something, before the turn of the century. So that kind of placed the poem for me. We talked in class about how he was a transcendentalist, and so they were looking at connecting to nature, transcending sort of the human world and reconnecting. That would be a very oversimplified way of describing the transcendentalists. So here's how I would kind of look at this poem, having read it a couple times now. Song of Myself. So I'm thinking me, and he's thinking, wow, I'm pretty great. I'm so great, I want to sing about it. All right, I celebrate and sing myself, and what I assume, you shall assume. So when I first read that, I think, oh, assume, like make an assumption. But I think there was a footnote in the version that you had that said assume can also mean to take on. So sort of what he takes on, you take on. It's like you have that thing in common. It says I loaf and invite my soul. Loaf meaning kind of lays about. So he's lazing about and inviting his soul. So sort of paying attention to his soul, letting it come to his forefront instead of being caught up in the busyness of his life. Um, and he's observing a spear of summer grass, one little grass, so paying close attention. My tongue, every atom of my blood formed from the soil, this air, born here of parents, born here from parents the same and their parents the same. So he's kind of like the lineage of human beings. But also, I'm thinking, I don't know how many generations of his family really go back to the land he's talking about, in the United States at this time. Probably not that far back. I, now 37 years old, in perfect health, begin, hoping to cease not till death. So he's beginning to look at the blade of grass, to invite his soul, and he wants to do it till death. Creeds in schools and abeyance. Abeyance means like you're pausing it or you're leaving it, setting it aside. So he's talking about like his religion, his schools, setting aside what he's been taught. Retiring back a while, sufficed at what they are, but never forgotten. I harbor for good or bad, I permit to speak at every hazard, nature without check, with original energy. So he's letting nature speak, I think, is what he's saying there. Houses and rooms are full of perfumes. The shelves are crowded with perfumes. I breathe the fragrance myself and know it and like it. So he's like, I like worldly pleasures. The distillation would intoxicate me also, but I shall not let it. So intoxicate is to like become altered state from something, so like becoming drunk from it. So he's like, these smells and created things of the world are intoxicating, they are mesmerizing, they're enticing, but he's going to resist. The atmosphere, which I think he means like the air of the natural world, is not a perfume. It has no taste of the distillation, it is odorless. To which I think the world isn't really odorless, but okay. It is for my mouth forever. I am in love with it. I will go to the bank by the wood and become undisguised and naked. So the bank of the river in the woods. And I don't know if he literally means naked or just naked and being in a natural state and letting sort of city things go to the side. I am mad for it to be in contact with me. He's super psyched about going into nature and being in the air and the atmosphere. The smoke of my own breath. So now he's talking about his breath may be connected to the atmosphere, and the smoke of it is kind of an interesting image. Like it has substance and he can almost see it. Echoes, ripples, buzzed, whispers, love root, silk thread, crotch, and vine. So I think these are all plant names, like the love root, silk thread, and vine. He's referencing like plant and natural materials. Crotch, I think, might mean like the crotch of a tree branch where it splits. That's sometimes called a tree crotch. That was also something I looked up. My respiration, that's your breathing, and inspiration, the beating of my heart, the passing of blood and air through my lungs, the sniff of green leaves and dry leaves, of the shore and dark-colored sea rocks of hay in the barn, the sound of belched words of my voice loosed to the eddies of the wind, a few light kisses, a few embraces reaching a round of arms, the The play of shine and shade in the trees and the supple boughs are like tree branches. The delight alone in the rush of the streets along the field and hillsides, the feeling of health, the full neutral, the song of me rising from bed and meeting the sun. So this is just the very beginning, but you can get an idea of how I'm taking it line by line to figure it out. You also could read a whole section and then kind of go back to the individual parts. But with this poem, I was able to approach it this way. After I read more of the poem, I might actually go and kind of read up on the transcendentalists a bit because, I mean, I learned about them in school and at various times, but I haven't thought about them closely for a while, so that would be interesting to think about the historical context of this poem. So that's an example of an annotation, and I hope it helps.